Good morning, students. Today we are going to start with the next topic, that is channels of communication. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So now we are going to do channels of communication. Our learning objectives are to define channels of communication, to enumerate various channels of communication, to elaborate various channels of communication with suitable examples, to understand advantages and disadvantages of various channels of communication, to compare and contrast various channels of communication, to explore the techniques of effective use of each channel. Let's see definition of channels of communication. In an organization, information flows forward, backwards, and sideways. Channels of communication refer to the way this information flows within the organization and with other organizations. You have already seen this particular diagram. Here, now we are talking about this channel. At the center of the diagram, you can say medium and channel. So now we are going to deal with channels. Now see this particular tree diagram. Channels are external and internal. External channels include inward and outward communication. Internal communication includes formal and informal communication. Informal communication is known as grapevine. Formal communication is further divided into vertical and horizontal communication. And vertical communication is further subdivided into upward and downward. So, these are the channels of communication. Now, let's see each one in detail. External communication. Communication with the people outside the organization is known as external communication. First, we will see inward communication. You have the organization at the center, and there is communication, messages coming from outside to inside, from banks, from government, from customers, from consultants, from media, and from dealers and suppliers. Its opposite is outward communication. Here, communication flows outward from the organization to the bank, government, customers, consultants, media, dealers and suppliers, etc. Please draw these diagrams. Inward communication and outward communication. It is very easy to understand. Let's see inward communication. All messages received from the outside world are known as inward communication. The methods of inward communication are email, fax, letter, telephone call, etc. The messages include inquiry, order, complaint, and feedback. Advantages of inward communication are: it creates responsibility, it increases cooperation and coordination, it increases productivity, and it creates goodwill of organization. Please note down all the points. I repeat, inward communication: all messages received from the outside world. Methods: email, fax, letter, telephone call, etc. Messages: inquiry, order, complaint, feedback, etc. Advantages: it creates responsibility, it increases cooperation and coordination, it increases productivity, and it creates goodwill of organization. Let's see outward communication. All messages sent to the outside world are known as outward communication. Its methods include email, fax, letter, publication, telephone call, etc. Its messages include bill, reply to inquiry, reply to complaint, tender, advertisement, etc. Advantages: it enhances sale, it increases profitability of organization, and it creates goodwill of organization. Please note down all the points.
Ma'am, can you explain the first point, learning of communication?
Sorry?
Explain करो ना वो वाला.
Which one? Which one you want me to explain? Methods.
PPT number 1.
These are the learning objectives. What we are going to do in this particular lecture. The points over there we are going to learn. So now, I repeat, outward communication: all messages sent to the outside world. Methods: email, fax, letter, publication, telephone call, etc. Messages: bill, reply to inquiry, reply to complaint, tender, advertisement, etc. Advantages: it enhances sale, it increases profitability of organization, it creates goodwill of the organization. Let's see internal communication. It is a communication with the people within the organization. Internal communication is divided into formal and informal communication. Let's see the formal communication. It is official. It follows a special line of authority. It is planned and deliberate. It is too slow. It is useful to raise employees' morale. It provides for poor feedback. Informal communication. It is unofficial. It does not follow any special line of authority. It is unplanned. It is very fast. It creates misunderstandings and it provides for better feedback. In the exam, a short note can be asked. Differentiate between formal and informal communication. So please make 2 columns and note down these points. Formal communication, official. Informal, unofficial. Formal, special line of authority. Informal, no special line of authority. Formal, planned and deliberate. Informal, unplanned. Formal communication is very slow. Informal communication is very fast. Formal communication is useful to raise employees' morale. Informal communication creates misunderstandings. Formal communication provides for poor feedback, while informal communication provides for better feedback. Let's see vertical communication. Formal communication is divided into vertical and horizontal communication. And vertical communication is further divided into upward and downward communication. Communication flowing along the line of authority within the organization is known as vertical communication. First, we will see downward communication. Here you can see the hierarchy, various levels. At the top level, you have general manager, then deputy general manager, then divisional manager, then plant manager, then supervisor, and finally worker. When communication flows from up to bottom, it is known as downward communication. And when communication flows from bottom to top, it is known as upward communication. From worker to supervisor, from supervisor to plant manager, from plant manager to divisional manager, from divisional manager to deputy general manager, and from deputy general manager to the general manager. So, in the diagram, you can see downward communication and upward communication. If we take the example of our college, principal is at the top, then there is vice principal, then there are teachers, and then there are students. So you can find 4 levels over here. When principal communicates with the students, it is downward communication, and when students communicate with teachers, vice principal, or principal, it is upward communication. Please draw the diagram. Let's see downward communication. It is the communication flowing down the line of organizational hierarchy. Its methods include interview, job instruction, meeting, memo, notice, warning, etc. Its messages include order, instruction, change in procedure, organizational goal, aims and objectives, profits and benefits, new schemes, etc. Its advantages are: it is useful to maintain discipline and smooth functioning in the organization. It is useful to announce changes. It is good for morale. Please note down these points. I repeat, communication flowing down the line of organizational hierarchy is known as downward communication. Its methods include interview, job instruction, meeting, memo, notice, warning, etc. Its messages include order, instruction, change in procedure, organizational goal, aims and objectives, profits and benefits, new schemes, etc. Its advantages are: it is useful to maintain discipline and smooth functioning. It is useful to announce changes. It is good for morale. Disadvantages of downward communication are: it is too authoritative. It is like dictatorship. Then over communication. Each and everything is dictated to the subordinates. So it results in over communication. Under communication, it is the opposite of over communication. No instruction is given to the subordinates and they are simply supposed to do the work on their own. So it is known as under communication. Then delay and distortion. The more the number of levels, the more delay and distortion. Distortion means change in the message takes place. Resistance. The subordinates do not like to follow the rules and regulations. So they resist the downward communication. Let's see guidelines for improvement. Number 1, there should be shorter lines of communication. Number 2, there is need for regularity. Number 3, need for balance between orders and beneficiary schemes. Please note down all the points. I repeat, disadvantages of downward communication. Number 1, too authoritative. Number 2, over communication. Number 3, under communication. Number 4, delay and distortion. And the last one, resistance. Then guidelines for improvement. Number 1, shorter lines of communication. Number 2, need for regularity. And number 3, need for balance between orders and beneficiary schemes. Let's see upward communication. It is the communication flowing up the line of organizational hierarchy. We have already seen it in the diagram. It is self-explanatory. From bottom to top. Its methods are appeal, suggestion box, grievance procedure, group meeting, report, open door policy, etc. Its messages include opinion, attitude, feeling, experience, peer group relation, employees' disposition towards company, etc. Its advantages are it fosters friendly relation among workers and management. It leads to participative management. Number 3, it improves decision making. And number 4, it provides for better feedback. Please note down all the points. I repeat, upward communication, communication flowing up the line of organizational hierarchy. Methods, appeal, suggestion box, grievance procedure, group meeting, report, open door policy, etc. Messages, opinion, attitude, feeling, experience, peer group relation, employees' disposition towards company, etc. Advantages of upward communication. Number 1, it fosters friendly relation among workers and management. Number 2, it promotes participative management. Number 3, it improves decision making. And the last one, it provides for better feedback. The last one is, it is useful to raise employees' morale. Let's see disadvantages of upward communication. First one is slanting or distortion, that is undesirable change in the message. Second one, messages not heard, even though the subordinates communicate their feelings, opinions, etc. to the managers simply ignore those messages. So that is known as messages not heard. Then the third one is fear of authority. The subordinates do not share their feelings and opinions because they fear their managers. Then the next one is bypassing of authority. It means the proper channel, the proper line of communication is disrupted because of upward communication. Now, let's see guidelines for improvement. Number 1, there should be shorter lines of communication. Number 2, managers should become active listeners. Number 3, prompt action should be taken after receiving feedback. And the last one is open door policy. It means a proper arrangement for arrangement of venue and timing should be done to facilitate the employees to meet and communicate with the managers. So please note down all the points. I repeat, disadvantages of upward communication, slanting or distortion, messages not heard, fear of authority, and bypassing of authority. Guidelines for improvement. Number 1, there should be shorter lines of communication. Number 2, managers should become active listeners. Number 3, prompt action should be taken after receiving the feedback. And the last one, open door policy. Now let's see horizontal communication. It is the communication flowing across the breadth of the organization among members of same rank. So here you can find 3 managers: purchase manager, sales manager, and production manager. communicating with each other. If we take the example of our college, when teachers communicate among themselves, it is known as horizontal communication. The methods of horizontal communication are interdepartmental memo, meeting, letter, circular, telephone talk, etc. Its messages include directives from higher authority, common policies, changes in procedure, instructions for newly adopted processes, and similar shared necessary information. Advantages of horizontal communication are better coordination, it creates team spirit, it creates democratic environment, it eliminates rivalry, and last one, it saves time. Please note down all the points. I repeat, methods of horizontal communication, interdepartmental memo, meeting, letter, circular, telephone talk, etc. Messages, directives from higher authority, common policies, changes in procedure, instructions for newly adopted processes, and similar shared necessary information. Advantages of horizontal communication: better coordination, team spirit, democratic environment, elimination of rivalry, and time saving. Let's see the disadvantages of horizontal communication. First one, fear and mistrust. Members of the same level do not communicate with each other freely because they are afraid of the authority and they do not trust each other. Mutual accommodation. Here, the mistakes of each other are covered up so that those mistakes are not discovered by the bosses. Third one, disruption of central planning. The mutual accommodation leads to the disruption of central planning. The higher authorities do not know what is happening at the lower level. Next, interdepartmental rivalry. Because of interdepartmental rivalry, people do not share open communication with each other. They sometimes even misguide each other. Let's see guidelines for improvement. Number 1, open-minded management. Number 2, motivated employees. Number 3, mutual respect for each other. Please note down the points. I repeat, disadvantages of horizontal communication: fear and mistrust, mutual accommodation, disruption of central planning, and interdepartmental rivalry. Guidelines for improvement: open-minded management, motivated employees, and mutual respect. Let's see informal communication. Informal communication is known as grapevine. Grapevine is an informal, unorganized, and unofficial channel of communication. It includes gossip, rumors, distorted messages, and half-truths. It is open secret communication. Now see why it is called open secret communication. Because when people communicate with each other, when they gossip with each other, when they circulate some secret information, what they do, for example, A will tell B some secret information and tell him not to share with anybody else. B will tell that secret information to C and also tell him not to tell it to anybody else. C will tell that secret information to D, again with the underlining message that please don't share it with anybody else. So like that, people share secret information with each and everyone. As a result, everybody knows that message, but nobody is ready to accept it openly. So it is known as open secret communication. Grapevine spreads like wildfire. It is very fast. It is said that wherever there are people, there are grapevines. And finally, we have to keep in mind that grapevine can neither be cut nor controlled. At the most, it can be influenced. Please note down these points. I repeat, grapevine is an informal, unorganized, and unofficial channel of communication. It includes gossip, rumors, distorted messages, and half-truths. It is open secret communication. It spreads like wildfire. It is said that wherever there are people, there are grapevines, and it can be neither cut nor controlled. At the most, it can be influenced. Let's see the types of grapevine. First one, chain. A to B, B to C, C to D, etc. Second one, wheel. Here, there is a group with a group leader and the members gossip among themselves. Cluster. It is a combination of chain and wheel. First, there is gossiping within a group. Then one member communicates with another member of another group. And then there is gossiping among the second group, among the members of the second group. Like that, it spreads on. So it is known as cluster. You can see in the diagram. And the last one is random. Here there is no particular direction. One person can communicate with 2 people or with 10 people. So you can see random movement in the 4th picture. Please draw these diagrams. Types of grapevine, chain, wheel, cluster, and random. Grapevine communication. Its effectiveness depends on fresh news, information concerning people, close proximity. Close proximity, if you're sitting next to each other, you tend to talk with each other and you tend to gossip. And certain talkative people. We know that there are some people who talk more than others, and they go on talking with each and every person. Now let's see advantages of grapevine communication. Number one, accuracy. The information got through grapevine communication is mostly accurate. Speed. The information is circulated very fast. Informality. The information is not formal, so it becomes personal information. Genuine feedback. We get the right type of feedback through grapevine communication. And the last one, grapevine communication works as the emotional safety wall. Please note down all the points. I repeat, effectiveness of grapevine communication depends on fresh news, information concerning people, close proximity, and certain talkative people. Advantages of grapevine communication are accuracy, speed, informality, genuine feedback, and emotional safety wall. Let's see disadvantages of grapevine communication. Number one, it spreads rumors. Number two, it distorts messages. It lacks control. Number four, it affects productivity negatively. Let's see guidelines for improvement. The close monitoring of grapevine is necessary to check negative information from being circulated. Number two, positive information can be leaked in grapevine to turn it into an asset. And number three, it is important to identify and acknowledge the informal networks of people so that confidential information can be shared only with the selected key people. Okay, I repeat, disadvantages of grapevine communication: it spreads rumors, distorts messages, lacks control, and affects productivity. Guidelines for improvement: close monitoring of grapevine is necessary to check negative information from being circulated. Positive information can be leaked in grapevine to turn it into an asset. And it is important to identify and acknowledge the informal networks of people so that confidential information can be shared with only selected key people. So here we finish with channels of communication. Let's summarize. Channels of communication refer to the way information flows within the organization and with other organizations. Channels of communication include internal and external channels, formal and informal channels, vertical and horizontal channels, upward and downward channels, and inward and outward channels. So goodbye. See you again.
Bye, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yes, if you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, our lecture is over.
मैम 14th वाला पीपीटी एक बार
Bye,
इसको बताओ
ma'am.
ना।
एक मिनट एक बार एक ही बात करो। हाँ
14th वाला जो पीपीटी था ना वो वाला एक बार बताओ ना मैम।
14th वाला 14th कौन सा वाला है? एक मिनट। ये वाला, ये सिर्फ डायग्राम है। जब फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर अगर तुम कॉलेज की बात करोगे ना, तो कॉलेज में समझो दो स्टूडेंट एक दूसरे के साथ बात कर रहे हैं, तो वो हो गया हॉरिजॉन्टल कम्युनिकेशन, दोनों स्टूडेंट है। दो टीचर्स अगर एक दूसरे के साथ बात कर रहे हैं, तो वो हो गया हॉरिजॉन्टल कम्युनिकेशन, क्योंकि दोनों टीचर्स है।
ओके मैम।
Okay, so now our lecture is over. Thank you very much.